19 years old, I found myself dropped out of BYU, Idaho. I was working at Pizza Hut and living in some random city in Texas. I was staring at an engagement ring on my finger, and I remember calling my mom and crying and thinking, I don't know if I'm ready to get married. I remember this was the time where I was the closest to the reality of what marriage would be like, or so I thought. I knew that once we got married, I'd see my fiance and husband for maybe 3 hours a day after he finished work. And most likely, I'd end up living in a city far from family and where I knew no one. I remember thinking I had spent so much time invested in our relationship and trying to make sure that my fiance was happy that I had completely forgotten about myself. I had sacrificed my own goals to chase his. And so I remember sitting there and thinking, like, what have I done for myself? And honestly, that day changed my life forever. For 2 years, like I said, I dedicated my sacrifices and my time for somebody to make them happy, and I wasn't happy myself. So I applied to a nanny job in a city that I've always wanted to live in, Manhattan, New York City. I had moved into an apartment all by myself, and I had broken off the engagement in order to find myself. This would be my first nanny job, and this was the first time living in a big city all by myself, and I had no idea what I was about to get myself into. Chloe and Charlie were both under the age of 3, and they would test me in so many ways. I thought before this that years spent as a babysitter would be enough experience. Unfortunately, it was not. Being a nanny is not a babysitting job, but rather a full-time mother. I worked 60 hours a week. I was the one that was woken up with the kids when they couldn't sleep at night. I potty trained them. I took care of them when they were sick. I was the first to say good morning and the last to say good night to them, and everything else in between. But I was also living in New York City, which was awesome. I was 19 years old, living in a city even bigger than my biggest dreams. I met some famous people. I went to some famous Broadway shows. I ate at Breakfast and Tiffany's. I rode my bike through Central Park. From Manhattan, I went to Dallas, and from Dallas to Salt Lake City, then to Beverly Hills. When I lived in Beverly Hills, I lived in the famous Rodeo Drive in a fancy gated house. I have cared for children all over the States for the last 5 years. I have learned to become completely selfless. I have learned just about everything that motherhood would consist of. I have learned patience and how to be kind, and I have learned how to protect myself as well as the kids that are in my care. Nanny jobs started for me as a way to escape, but now have led me to the biggest adventures that I can't even imagine. I am now finishing my last week living in Madrid, Spain. Never would I ever thought that I would have ended up here. And now I'm about to go on a solo backpacking trip through Europe. So this leads me to my point that choosing to find yourself is the best selfish thing that you could bless yourself with. I'm not saying that every girl needs an eat, pray, love experience in order to find themselves, but I think that you should be selfish and you should do the things on your bucket list before getting married. The time I have right now is the only time that I have that I can be selfish. Going backpacking and not having to worry or have a care in the world, or being able to go skydiving, and pack my car whenever I want to, move to a new city, get a college degree now in anything that I want. But it's also important to have your heart broken a few times while breaking a few people's as well. Living in a city where they don't speak English and you have to do hard things alone. Experience that will make you question your testimony and where God is. Because I think about where I was at 19 to where I am now, and I think about all the experiences and all the challenges that I had to go through. And I needed to learn how to be independent and when I shouldn't depend on someone. I needed to learn how to communicate with somebody in healthy ways and not just ignore them or ignore the problems. I hear girls say all the time, I wish I would have traveled or I wish I would have studied abroad or done things before they got married. And my response is yes, you should have. You should have done those things for yourself before getting married. Because kids and marriage will come, and that the trials and experiences and all the beautiful things that attach to it, they will come. And this life is about preparing yourself. And I believe that the best preparation for marriage is finding yourself first. I wasn't ready to get married. I wasn't ready for kids. I was a young girl at 19 with big dreams. And I'm so thankful that I chased my dreams 5 years ago because now I can head back to Utah in a week and I can confidently say that I'm ready to get married and I'm ready to have kids and I feel prepared for both of those things. So all along my travels, even those lonely days that I have alone, I carry these 5 things with me as helpful reminders of what matters most. This is my favorite picture of Christ. It's a helpful reminder to me that He is always indeed with us, no matter how lonely that we really are. This is one of my favorite quotes. It says, "Do what makes you happy." And that goes along with how I feel like you should be selfish. You should really do the things that make you happy. This is a picture of my family and my niece. This is one of my favorite pictures that I had, that a little girl drew for me, as well as this one. One important thing that I've learned through the whole nanny experience is that I need these kids just as much as they need me.